Hello, everyone. How you doing? We are back, and it's good to be here. We're joined by Hank today, which is going to be fun. Hank's our Sabres writer, and we're going to get into some Sabres talk. We're sorry we brought you on, Hank, in a 5-game losing streak, but that's okay.
Still a good day to talk Sabres. Always
Yeah, that's expected, Eck.
Yeah, definitely the losses. I don't know about 5 in a row. They gotta do better than that. It's not 18 though. Last year it was 18 in a row, so hopefully we don't get to that.
5-1-1. The sky was
Also, sorry we brought you on today.
everything was beautiful. And and it was
probably should bring you on when Mike's not here too, but that's okay. Mike's such a anyway. We're gonna I was a friend of mine. I have lots of internet friends. People that work on different apps and things like that. And I'm gonna do a little pre-show thought today because I was just made aware of this. He developed this thing called What 3 Words. Has anybody heard about this yet?
No.
So What 3 Words? Okay. I'm gonna bring up the website for you guys and check it. But
I can think of 3 words.
I know. There you go. So the weird thing about this is I don't know what to make of this. Like, I don't know if this is awful or terrible or the end of the world or something strange. Like, I don't know this person very well. I'm not trying to sell his product. That's a free thing. I'm not trying to. This is not like me saying, hey, it is supposed. It's the best way to track something, apparently, in the world. And the concept is this. It says it's street addresses. Don't. Okay, I'm going to share this. I got to share this. This is crazy. You guys are going to love this. All right. So here we go. Let me just.
Are we sure we want to bring this up?
Yes, we do, because this is something that if it's big, you're going to say you heard it here first. Otherwise, you're going to be like, this is really weird. All right. So it talks about street addresses don't point to precise locations, right? And What 3 Words has given every 3 meters square on the planet 3 distinctive words. That for a second. So,
okay, how about
it's very small? I can't even read that.
Okay, yeah, no, but I'm just saying the concept is. Yeah. Here's the concept. Every place that there is, like where you are right now, where you're sitting, where your house is, where anything is, in the middle of the ocean, whatever. Every 10-foot by 10-foot square has been given a 3-word destination. So I could tell you where I am. If I could say like box, trumpet, horse. You could type that in and you would know exactly where I am, as opposed to like a GPS location or a.
Nah, I disagree. Yeah. There's no way people would. No. If I give you 3 things for where I live, there's no way people would know. No way.
No, it would have to be widely accepted, obviously. Okay. And then, and that is like, to me, like you'd have to get in on Waze and all sorts of things, right? There has to be things that have to happen. And I also said, to him, I'm like,
okay, then I get that. Okay.
You should be selling like this. Like I can make my house hockey world heaven or whatever, pick up 3 words. That would be something.
This sounds like the star. This sounds like the star registry. It's like, okay, I can name some star in the in a certain quadrant, the Agello star. I mean, come on, what the
right? Like
there's my 3 words. What that
did these people? Wait, hold on. Did these people used to own Squarespace? Because they don't seem to be around anymore either.
No. So I'm going to put in Madison Square Garden. Okay, just for a second. Just like so let's just put in Madison Square Garden, and you put in that, and it brings up Madison Square Garden right here. There it is. And now, like, if you click on that, like you find now you have to go. You can go within like a 10-foot area of Madison Square Garden, so it's not just Madison Square Garden. But so what I'm clicking on these like Puppy Dimes intro, 3 words, Puppy Dimes intro. And that gets you to Madison Square Garden within a 10-foot range. So if you're trying to meet somebody in New York City or whatever, is there a benefit to that? You know what I mean? Like, so like you're trying to meet someone.
Yeah, so it's more specific than an address. That's the thing.
Good, Hank. Hank, what do you think?
Yeah, so it's more specific than an address, basically.
Right, it's more specific than an address.
And it's just randomly generated titles, right?
Okay. Randomly generated 3 words.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to a park and if you're meeting someone at a park, it's easier to say, you're at this quadrant than.
Or how about the beach?
Yeah,
like,
at a park.
Where are you guys on the beach?
No.
Like we have a beach place, and we often try to tell people we're on the beach. So what we do on the beach is we actually have a flag that we set up. We have a gazebo we set up, and a big smiley face yellow flag that we hang all the time. And we say, just look for the yellow flag, and that's where people find us on the beach.
I can see it working for like Bill's tailgates. That would be a good function.
There you go, right? A tailgate. I mean, it's interesting to me. Like it is. I'm not sure what to make of it, but it is unique in some ways. Like it is interesting. Like if I was to tell you, like so and so street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19 whatever, whatever. That's a lot more complicated than saying hippo, cow, country.
Yeah, but I could just share you my GPS coordinate. I don't have to say a word. You know exactly how to find me.
Right. If you shared your GPS coordinate, right? But the GPS coordinates are kind of complicated. I mean, if someone was to just, if I was dealing with
I think it's that complicated, but okay.
with my in-laws, and I've shared locations with my in-laws, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" Like they click on the thing, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" But if I was to say, "Come to Tiger Space," Puck, and that's just, I don't know. I'm not sure that it's not awesome, and it's like, so it's right between, like, I'm right between those two things. Part of me saying this is incredible, and part of me saying this is terrible.
I side with terrible.
Well, I knew you would, Mike. I mean, that's not that. I would have bet my house on that.
I'm just siding with. I think there are better ways. I'm not saying it's terrible.
Okay, what do you think, Hank?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing that I think is comparable is dropping a pin, like you said. So,
yeah,
right.
Maybe it's better.
If I do that, it's like your phone will lead you to
that does get you there for sure. But if you were to, and obviously you wouldn't, like, I could share my exact three things here, and you could find my house, you could find where I am, you can find where I'm. What it really does, like, get down to it. Like, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to hockey. But I thought it was something.
Please.
My dogs are losing their minds, so hopefully there'll be something's happening outside. Last night I think my dog was sprayed by a skunk, and it's freaking out still.
Oh no.
I think it stunk, but not a lot. I think it was almost sprayed by a skunk. Anyway, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, November 9th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and X backyard is dogs sprayed by skunks.
There you go.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and I'm telling you, nobody would know if I gave you 3 words. Nobody.
I'm Reckon. You're watching about HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And from now on, Hank, you will be introduced right after Russ in the intro. But we didn't give you that, and you just But now you're still get one more time as a special guest. So you're a special guest today. This is Hank Balling, our Sabres writer for Hockey Buzz. How are you doing, Hank?
I'm great. It's great to be here. Can't wait to talk to you.
Awesome. Could you adjust your mic? I think your microphone. Check your microphone input, because I think you're like what mic input you're giving us, because it's a little bit quiet.
It's ambient.
I think you're maybe giving us like.
Yeah, I was struggling with that before. Is that better?
That's better. Yes.
That's better.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, if I'm coming on in the future, I might have to invest in a mic. This doesn't
get
seem
yourself
like
a little USB mic. They're pretty cool.
Or headphones.
Or headphones. Yeah.
Yeah. Either way. All right. Perfect. All right. So we're gonna start with talking about the Sabres, and because we have Hank here, I really wanted to get Hank on last week, and we kind of messed up our timing on this after the Eichel trade. We changed our show to 1 to 3, and that kind of messed up everything. So, but I wanted to get the Eichel trade because Hank, like, you're the guy. You're the guy. What are your thoughts on this?
Overall, I think they did pretty well. I mean, it's with the injury, especially. If you took a healthy Eichel and this is a return, you're probably not happy with it. But considering the position that they were in, I think overall pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing, I guess the big question to me is this: like, everything is being compared to the O'Reilly trade, right? Like the trade that, and is this okay after that? Like, it's weird that they have to be compared to each other, but they do for some reason.
Well, there's 2 major differences as I see it in that. First of all, they didn't take back Patrick Berglund or Vladimir Sobotka. You didn't get the pure cap dump player. You got a good player in Alex Tuck, who, there's a big difference there. And they also got the best prospect that Vegas had. They got Peyton Krebs, Tage Thompson, which maybe we'll get to him later because the transition to center has been fascinating for Tage Thompson. But at the time, he wasn't the best prospect in the system.
Well,
so I think on those 2 fronts, they did well. You get the pick,
Well, there's another major difference here, Hank. There wasn't a signing bonus that the Pagulas could bail out on and get less in the deal.
Well, that was coming next off season. So
right,
that was coming down the pike with the
But
No
but
trade clause, too.
Yeah, right.
what I'm saying is that the Ryan O'Reilly deal was mitigated by the fact that the Pagulas did not want to pay the $8 million signing bonus, and they took less. If they would have paid that signing bonus, they probably would have gotten a Jordan Kyrou or a Robert Thomas in that deal. But instead, they said, we don't want to pay it. This guy doesn't want to be here. So instead, they get Berglund, Sobotka, and Tage Thompson, who was their third or fourth best prospect. And that's why this organization is in the state that they're in right now, because I don't think that sometimes they do the things that teams do to win.
Yeah, and to tie this Eichel trade back to that, I think one of the things they learned was, Ryan O'Reilly came out and lost his love of the game speech. And, after that, it was, they got to get him out of here as soon as possible. Yeah. And, when Eichel had his press conference, I think people were assuming, he's coming out, he's basically saying, I want to get traded without saying I want to get traded. But the Sabres, didn't view that as, we got to move him now, because I think for 6 months, everyone was assuming that the Sabres weren't willing to go into the season with Eichel, and they did, because they weren't getting the offers that they wanted. So I think they did learn something from that. Kevin Adams has been with the organization for 10 years, so he's seen all of this. He knows all this. So, I think that was good.
Right. Hey, this is the thing that, and Ack and I have argued about this a little bit, because I picked the Sabres to finish dead last in the Atlantic because, and okay, there are things to be accomplised.
I had him 30th in the league, just by the way, just so that we all know where I stand.
I was the one who I was awfully optimistic. I had him 6.
Yes. But we expect the sunny optimism from Mac, to counterbalance my bitterness.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: there are things to be accomplished, and Don Granato did accomplish some things at the end of the season, and I think he'll accomplish things this year. The development of Rasmus Dahlin, Yoki Haru, the young defenseman, of Cousins and Middlestad, although Middlestad has been out since the opener. The young players that they have, that is what is to be accomplished. But if you look objectively at this roster, it's a bunch of hole pluggers. It's a bunch of guys who are just thankful to be in the NHL, like Vinny Hinostroza and Drake Caggiula and John Hayden. They're not meant to win. Any team that puts Aaron Dell, Craig Anderson, and Dustin Tokarski in net is not intent on winning. They're intent on surviving the season.
It's interesting, too. A lot of those players that you name, this goes back to a little bit of a shift in the Sabres organization, too. If you look at players like Pysyk and Caggiula and Hinostroza, the underlying numbers, the analytics are solid on these guys for depth players. So I think they went out, they knew they were going to be a floor team, but they tried to, bring in guys that can at least, move the puck a little bit. Yeah. So, and keeping in mind too, that you're not going to get any free agents to come here. The situation with Eichel is a mess. So you got to make do with those kind of players.
Right.
But I honestly think some of those guys have been, pretty solid.
Yeah.
Pysyk, I like personally, but
the only thing I would say about that is there's always guys that you could get that are down on no luck that could possibly score. And the guys that you mentioned are all good mucker and grinders that just get some points. But the Sabres were already loaded with those players. To me, they weren't going to be great this year. I get it. But they probably could have searched for some better bargains for guys that were looking to maybe have a good year on a contract year that could possibly get them some points.
I thought they would be in on Foligno, Nick Foligno. He's born in Buffalo.
Maybe had Alex Chase on. Nobody wanted the guy. He always scores goals.
And as far as the goaltending too, they tried to sign Ullmark. They liked Ullmark. They gave him an offer, but he didn't want to be part of the losing anymore.
I don't know if it was that they didn't give him the best offer. If they didn't give him the best offer,
what I heard is that they matched Boston's offer. That's what I heard.
Yeah, and he wanted the Markstrom deal. He wanted $6 million to stay in.
Yeah,
So that, I mean, I don't blame them on that, but what I do blame them on, and I mean, I think, okay, Kevin Adams did a better job in the Eichel deal than Botterill did on the O'Reilly deal. I'll give him credit for that. But you have to go into free agency with a plan B, and they didn't have a plan B if Ullmark signed someplace else. They ended up scrambling and signing a 41-year-old Craig Anderson.
Whoa, hold on. I mean, for a second, like you gotta have some perspective here as to what they are. Like it seems teams like Toronto, and Philly right now need plan Bs and plan Cs. Like Buffalo needs to put a team together that has like whenever I talk to Don Granato about this, I mean, like things are going well, and he's like, yeah, we're getting close to that identity. It's all about identity to him. Like that's what he says.
Well, but one more thing on the goalie too. Yeah, I think after Ullmark left, I think they were fine. They wanted Anderson to mentor Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Yeah, that's what I think they hope to have happen. You have a grizzled vet, you have a young guy, but in the preseason, Luukkonen was just not good, and it clearly became apparent. And that's why they signed Dell. I thought that Tokarski would beat out Dell, and he did, but I mean, neither one. Whatever.
My argument against that, Hank, would be why in the world would you think Pekka Luukkonen would be ready for this year?
So again, this is just kind of a rumor thing, but there's always been.
No, I get it. I'm not saying you.
Organizationally, that there's been a mandate from ownership to get them into games sooner rather than later.
Well, okay, so
Kevin Adams has to step in and say, "Listen, not ready is not ready."
Right, and Russ, maybe he did because he's playing in Rochester now instead of playing with the Sabres. If he's playing with the Sabres and you throw him to the Lions, then you've blown an asset, and that would be just absolutely stupid. So Hank, my theory is that they have Quinn, and who's leading the Amherst in scoring. Peterka
too. Yeah, he's playing really well.
Peterka, Krebs now, and Luukkonen. I will bet you around the trade deadline, all of them are up to at least get a look at the NHL. They're not ready, and this team is finishing in 31st or 32nd. So why blow it? Why rush?
I think Peterka honestly could have played in the NHL and would have been totally fine. Everything I watched from him, he looks like an NHL player. If you watch him, he can do everything. He's got an NHL body too. He's like 200 pounds.
He does, but he's still not great in his own end, and I think that's where he needs a little bit of extra.
Yeah, he tries to dance through people and do all that. While we're on the subject, I honestly think that Dylan Cousins should go to Rochester. He's struggling.
Well, this is the one thing I don't understand what Granato's doing, and maybe it's because Middlestat is injured, so he's got to sort of patch things together. But how are you accentuating the positive with an offensive talent, with a kid with a lot of talent like Dylan Cousins, playing him with Drake Caggiula and Vinny Hinostroza? I mean, give me a break.
Honestly, I don't think I wouldn't blame anything that's going on with Cousins on those two. I mean, he's making mistakes where his one play that he constantly does is he's entering the zone and looking for a drop pass back to a defenseman who he's not looking. He keeps doing it. But what I'm saying is, it's not like he's creating things and no one can cash on. He's got his own problems going on.
This was the case last year, though, Hank. I can't tell you how many times on this show I said, "Is it worth it to have Dylan Cousins at the NHL level to score 15 points?" And it's not. It's not.
And so what people really like is his intangibles are great. He looks like a leader, but
he's gonna be a really good player.
And he's dropping the gloves. But do you want him to drop the gloves?
I have no problem with that. I just don't want him. I don't want to see him struggle. Last night he got blown up twice. He just got absolutely lit up, and it just looks like his confidence is going in the wrong direction.
Definitely send him down. But my point was, they rushed him last year. There was a point last year where they probably should have sent him down. I saw him live 3-4 times. I think like 3 times, at least 2 or 3. And at any rate, he was not ready. I would tell Mike, he's got a great shot, but there's other things in his game that he needs to work on, and they ignored it.
Yeah. Last year they tried it. They put him on the wing with Eric Stahl to be the, veteran mentor. That, so, they tried to surround him with talent. This year, going into camp, you thought, and maybe this will transition into a little bit of a different direction, but you thought the only two centers they have are Middlestat and Cousins. And it seemed like he was guaranteed to have a job. And then all of a sudden, Don Granato figures out that Tage Thompson is a center. Right. And suddenly he's the best of the bunch. Granted, Middlestat is hurt. But, I think when Middlestat comes back, you'll have Middlestat, Ruotsalainen, Thompson, Eakin, Gergensons can play a little bit of center. You got about 5 guys there. You either move Cousins to the wing or you send him down to
No, you got to send him down. Yeah. Moving him to the wing does not help him long term. And I said to Mike last year, and I said it to Eck, when you're used to scoring the way Dylan Cousins is used to scoring, the worst thing you could do is go through an NHL season and not score. And they went and they did the whole charade last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is unquestionably coming.
I'm so much. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that unquestionably feels like it's coming from up top, right? Like it feels like we need to sell tickets. We need to have our future star in here.
But I also
think it's right.
I also think, like I said, I think part of the year is to develop these players. And if you can send Cousins down to play with his Team Canada World Junior teammate Krebs and have them play as a combo together and get some confidence for a month, that probably would be the best thing for him. Do I think they'll do that? I mean, first of all, you're not selling tickets with this team, Hank. You can go on StubHub and buy tickets for a Leaf game for $40. So nobody wants to go see this team until next year when maybe Owen Power's in the lineup and some of these young kids are playing. So right now it's like I think what they're doing is they're trying to accentuate the positive with some of the guys who are in the last year of their contracts. I think Kyle Oposo is going to be a trade deadline guy that they move. I think they're going to move.
That would be so surprising to me for a couple of reasons. Kyle Oposo, he lives in Buffalo year round now. Yeah. And he's really been their go-to organizational guy. They send him to speak on their behalf and different stuff, and he's just a really solid leader. And I think last time when he went into
not to interrupt you, Hank, but he's the perfect guy to move at the deadline and have come back next year. Like he's the kind of guy who's
he's still got another year on his deal.
Still one more year. Okay, then I
thought he was up after this year.
No, he's got one more after this.
I thought there was one more too.
And he's only owed in real money. He's got a $6 million cap hit.
Right. That's right.
Okay. But there's not much money left on the deal. He's just a solid guy.
Yeah.
I think last time when they went into the tank, they didn't keep any Kyle Oposos around.
So let's shift. I'll definitely say Colin Miller, Will Butcher, Robert Hogg, especially at the deadline, defenseman with some experience, especially a right-handed guy like Miller, even though he's not having a great year, they'll shop those guys because
one last thing. You can't trade everybody because if you make this team as nondescript as they are this year, Owen Power may not come next year.
I think he'll be in the fold. He's also, as of last year, I'm not sure if it's true this year, but his roommate is Eric Portillo, the Sabres goaltending prospect. So, there's multiple ties to Buffalo. I'm not at all worried.
I'm not saying he's never going to play for the Sabres, but I can't guarantee you he's coming next year.
Russ,
you just raved about him to me, Russ, recently. You just raved about Owen, saying that he's really
great.
They're absolutely real.
And so is Portillo. Portillo's been great.
Well, Russ, what the rumor around Buffalo is that Power is going to sign after Michigan's year is over with at the end of the NHL season to burn the first year of his ELC, like we've seen with other college players before. I mean, I don't think it's going to end up being a Jimmy Vesey situation or Adam Fox situation where he wants to go someplace else.
I don't think it'll be that, but his advisor may say to him, listen, you're this close to a championship. They're that far away. They'll wait a year for you. It's not impossible.
They've already waited a year. Talking about waiting 2 years.
So 2 years. That's it. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about ticket sales. Like you sit there and say that Buffalo doesn't have to sell tickets, and right now after the 2 seasons, all the NHL had to go through, everybody needs every cent. I've talked to owners, and it's dismal.
I didn't say they don't have to sell tickets. I said that they won't sell tickets with this team. No, if the border was open, then you'd have 16,000 Leaf fans buying the tickets. But the border, you have to take a test to get back into Canada, so that's going to mitigate any Canadians coming over the border to see the Leafs.
That's obviously right now.
And you're getting crowds, Hank. What is it, 8,000-9,000 about for
7 to 8?
Yeah. I mean,
it's a shame. I've been to a few games this year, and they do play an up-tempo system, and they try every shift. And for 5 years, Sabres fans had to deal with teams that on any given night you didn't know if they're going to mail it in or not, and that's not this team at all. So
no, they try.
A little bit of a shame. If this was the first rebuild, I don't think you would see
that's the case. That's the issue.
But it's been 10 years.
It's been a decade for like one of the best sports markets to not.
Yeah, it's brutal. The other thing I would say about tickets, going back to the Eichel trade, the acquisition of Tuck. I don't know if you guys saw his press conference at all. He grew up in Syracuse and he was neighbors with Tim Connolly, and he's talking about going to Sabres games with his dad, and he's naming off guys from the 05-06 team, Fenaganoff, and he really, really was about joining.
No question. He's a great kid. I like him pre-draft.
And Hank, Elliot Friedman said that was one of the centerpieces of them getting Tuck was that they actually, they're dying to have players who actually want to play for the Sabres.
I mean, he was training here in the off season and stuff, so he's had ties. And so
going back to July, I talked to Sabres reporters, and they said if there was a deal with Vegas, that Tuck would be part of it because he's from Syracuse, he trained in Buffalo, and he would want to play for the Sabres. Do you think at the end of it, do you think Jack Eichel or Sam Reinhart or Ristolainen wanted to play for the Sabres? They got the hell out.
I was a little surprised that Eichel asked for a trade after Ralph Kruger's first season. Yeah. So they missed the return to play by a point, right?
Right.
And that's when Eichel asked for a trade. And we'll never know, but you wonder what would have happened. They were playing Montreal that night when the season was canceled. They were in Montreal.
I know.
And Montreal was the last team in. Yeah, you wonder, if they won that, look what it did. I'm not saying the Sabres would have gone to the Stanley Cup final like Montreal, but look what that did for Montreal.
Had they won that game, Hank, they would have lost to Pittsburgh instead of Montreal.
Yeah, that's fine, but you never know. That might have made Jack Eichel happy,
right.
And last year they were saying that he had an abdominal injury in the 20 games that he played, or 18 games that he played, and he just looked off all year.
Yeah.
When he did his interview with Friedman, he essentially admitted that he was done.
Yeah.
Hank.
Yeah.
Going back to okay, he was hurt in training camp. Ralph Kruger, 10 games into the season, was asked, I think by Mike Harrington, is Jack hurt? He said, no. Then a week later, he said, oh, yeah, he was hurt in training camp. So they were hiding injuries about him going back to training camp.
I don't trust anything that Kruger said. Kruger was such a disaster.
But that created this whole charade. When he went to Philly, he was supposed to be on the trip. He's supposed to be playing. Then all of a sudden, last minute, Jack Eichel's not there. And so
you have to give them you have to give them a little bit of a break on this, because one of the things about that is that Eichel is probably telling Kruger he's not hurt, okay, because he's a hockey player, and he's going to tell people, he's going to tell him he's not hurt, right? So Kruger has to go off of that, and Kruger also was more focused on everything but Jack Eichel. Like Jack Eichel, he's good.
The Sabres medical staff probably knows that he's hurt in training camp.
Probably not.
Oh.
Well, supposedly he was hurt while he was doing bench presses with Matt Ellis, so I think they would have known.
All right, maybe.
But I don't even know if any of that. I don't even know if any of that's real. I mean, when he talked to Friedman, he said that a part of him, his poor performance is because he had one foot out the door. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, at the end, clearly it was just soured. It was over. None of it went well, and you are where you are. But
look, he looks. I watched the press conference yesterday. I will say two things. He looked more like the Jack Eichel that I remember interviewing pre-Sabres, and he does look happy. So was some of that his fault? Sure. Was some of it the Sabres' fault? Yeah. And so I'm happy for the guy that he's able to put it behind him, but the guy didn't hold it against the fans. And so I think people in Buffalo should understand he gave his best effort. This guy is a winner. He had to go against a lot of other BS when he was there.
Yeah, and he was put in a tough situation as the guy who had to be the guy and the franchise savior. I mean, one other thing quick on this, when he was drafted and they brought in Kane and Leonard and O'Reilly, now you can see there were some personality things and, the people he was surrounded with, maybe not the greatest cast for a young player. And, the supporting cast, of course, was terrible in those years. But,
Nothing says great decision making than to bring in Evander Kane as the veteran guy to everybody to learn from. That was brilliant.
And I'm certainly not here to blame Jack Eichel, but he wasn't able to elevate the team.
Yeah,
he just wasn't. And
he needed help. He needed help, Hank, and that's the problem.
Skinner didn't help him.
No. Okay,
he was good the 1 year, and then the next year he was nothing.
Well, Russ, I'll come to the defense of Jeff Skinner in this regard because we talked about this many times. He scored he was on a pace for 50 goals in a contract year, playing with Jack Eichel, and then the next year Ralph Kruger comes in and says, "Okay, you're going to be on the second line with Marcus Johansson. We're not going to play you on the line that you scored almost."
And Sabatka on the other side.
You're a goal scorer, Mike. He still should have been able to score.
Come on, Russ. I mean, there's a difference.
I'm not saying no. I'm not giving Jeff Skinner a break. Are you telling me right now, if you put Artemi Panarin with Jack Eichel and he gets 120 points, if you put him on a second line with, I don't know, Ryan Strome, he's still not going to get 100 points? Like, come on.
Well, I didn't say Jeff Skinner was Artemi Panarin, but I did say
he's a goal scorer. He should still be able to score.
Yeah, but you need to get the puck from somebody. You can't get the puck from Marcus Johansson, who isn't even a center.
Johansson is not a terrible player.
He's not a center.
He's not a center. He's not a center.
No, he's not a center. That was the team's.
Why don't you go on and get Billy Leno? He was really good as a center too, wasn't he?
Don't pick on Billy. All right, so here's the perspective. I like Billy Leno. Philadelphia.
Everybody has a flaw in the character act.
I always call him Philadelphia. Anyway, all right, so here's the thing. We need the way I brought this up, and then Mike took it down, but I'm going to bring it up again because this is what matters right now. I mean, the reality is, okay, if I had said, Mike, to you or to any, I remember when I said Buffalo was going to finish in 6th, I was laughed out of the building.
And you should be, because they're going to finish in 8th.
Well, right now they're in 5th. Okay.
It's 12 games into the season.
Buffalo's got 3 games at hand, so let's say Boston got 3. Boston obviously
all be losses.
They're in 6th. Ottawa has issues. Montreal has huge issues.
Okay.
Would you rather be Buffalo right now or Montreal?
Always going to have issues. And Montreal is getting Carey Price and Paul Byron back. You think they're going to still sit in last place?
Here's what I would say too. The Sabres are missing Middlestat and Olofsson. Yeah. Olofsson is having a terrific year, and he's really turned the corner on 5-on-5 production, and he's really upped his game. And I think he's definitely a candidate. He could have 60, 65 points. And I don't think they're that bad. It's a matter of Craig Anderson, who, as you said, is 41 and now he's hurt.
Yeah.
And so can the goaltending stand up? Probably not. But if it does, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I think they could finish as high as 25th, to be honest.
And here's the difference. Here's the thing. Okay, they are obviously, when you look at their record now at 5-5-2, they've lost 5 in a row, right? So before that, they're 5-0-2, and that's impressive.
Oh my God!
No, wait, whoa! Hold on. I mean, if you're gonna rip them for 5 game losses, you got to give them credit for the start that they had.
The start wasn't a fluke. I don't know if you guys watched those games. They outplayed teams.
Yeah,
they outplayed last year. When I watched them play in Philly, they played the Flyers 4 times in 4 nights, at one point. Yeah. It was great. And when I watched those games, you saw the beginnings of this. And this is why I put them in 6, because I saw that there is the way that Granato plays, the way that some players on that team, you could see the beginnings of something. I'm not saying that they are not a mess and everything else because they are. But the reality is, what's going to determine the difference between this Sabres and last Sabres is when they can stop the bleeding, right? They have to not go.
Yeah, exactly.
But heck, I remember saying to you during that streak, Craig Anderson can't maintain this. He will get hurt, and he's already hurt.
Yeah,
and that's not rocket science, Russ. I mean, that's
That's the point of this. It's not rocket science.
Or you have to one of these guys that they have there, is going to be able to at least keep them. But
Vegas hasn't been the problem this season.
No, and Vegas has lost players due to injury, and Vegas is in just as Vegas hasn't been able to handle it. So Buffalo, how's Buffalo?
They have the worst goaltending in the division. They have the worst defense in the division, and they have the worst forwards in the division. Other than that, they're great.
No, they don't have the worst depth in the division. And
here's what I think about their team. They're a bunch. If you're making this team on PlayStation or whatever, the entire team is people who are 80 overall.
Yeah,
there's no awful players on this team.
Right.
There's just no great players either.
Right.
A bunch of
they have players out there who are ready to take. There are players given an opportunity. Given opportunity, some players can be pretty good.
Let me make a point. They had like the 2006 and 2007 Sabres, who they always said they have 3 second lines. They don't have a number one line. They have three.
I don't agree with that. Briere scored like 100 points that year. He wasn't a second liner.
That was what was said. And this team, they have 4 fourth lines.
No, they don't.
No, I disagree with that too. I mean, the Thompson, Asplund, and Olofsson line. That's a playing like a second line, and it's certainly a quality third line. Yeah, and I think most of the players on their team, if you want to say they're all third liners, I could definitely get on board with that.
Amen.
But,
I'm with you.
Can we talk about
the other thing? One quick thing on the roster build too. In years past, they had a team full of slugs who were just the slowest and most boring players to watch. You had Jimmy Vesey and everyone else, whatever. Everyone on this team can skate now, and it's fun to watch. They're fast, so that's a difference too.
In the NHL right now, speed matters. I mean, speed is a big. Speed's by Montreal goes to where they go to last year. Speed's by Vegas goes to where they go to in their rookie year. It's like this whole speed does matter, and that's where this. I mean, to say they have 4 fourth liners is outrageous. There's no way they have 4 fourth lines.
Well, here's the other thing about goaltending. Craig Anderson's ranked 21st. He's ranked 21st in the league. Where do you think they stand with team goaltending? It's not good.
Goaltending is not good.
I haven't seen it as a problem this year, to be completely honest. There's been some breakdowns, and then missing Olofsson and Middlestat, they just have no one to score. You know what I mean? When you take him out of the lineup, you're counting on Tage Thompson and who's been good, but it's just you're not going to get
there soon. When Tuck gets in there, that's going to change things.
It will, and he'll be good. But Gergensons and Il Poso I think they have 5 points each in the first 5 games. That's not going to hold up. Gergensons isn't an 80-point player.
Right.
Can we talk about the Pacific Division now?
Yes, we can. But I appreciate it. Hank, you can stay with us if you'd like. We'd love to have you on and keep your.
I think you guys will do better. I don't have a lot of insight to offer about that.
Mike, they're going to kill me. Hank, they're going to kill me if you leave. But that's fine.
Leave, Hank, leave.
I need somebody who has some rational thinking around it. Anyway, all right.
You guys are diehards. You stay up late to watch those games. I can't make it, man.
That's because we have no life.
Definitely try.
I can't say that for myself.
After 50, it gets a lot harder.
It does.
All right.
Have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks
for having me, Mike. Really appreciate it. Great job. That's Hank Welling. You got to read him. Follow him on Twitter. He's just. What are you on Twitter, Hank? By the way.
HB on HB at HB on HB.
HB on HB. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
HB on HB. I'm telling you, of all the Sabres writers we've ever had, we've had some pretty good ones. I'll put Hank right there. And of all the Sabres writers out there right now, like I put you and Joe Yurton into class by yourselves. I
appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm completely just honored and thrilled that you're on our team. So thanks, Hank.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
Take care, man. Bye. All right, that's Hank, and gosh, man, wow.
Ooh, we lost.
Where'd Russ go?
I don't know.
All right, Russ will be back. Yeah. Mike, you really woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, my friend.
No, because I was trying to get my point across here. It's like,
the Sabres suck. We know it. That's what you're.
Yeah, exactly. So that okay.
Stop saying it. Stop. But you're exaggerating.
No, I'm not.
You guys say I exaggerate one way. You're definitely going the other way.
I'm not exaggerating. That's the point. The point is
fourth lines.
4 third lines.
4 third lines. I'll take 4 fourth lines.
Well, I mean, honestly, their third line is a 4th line. Their 4th line is an AHL line.
I mean, in my opinion, they have one line that's like middle of the road, bottom level second line. two
with
lines and a fourth line.
with everybody healthy, when Middlestad is back with Olsen,
When
that
Puck gets there.
Right, well, but he's not there right now, and right now none of those guys are in the lineup. So that's why I said, they're piecing together, Drake Kajula, John Hayden, Hinostroza. Those guys are third and fourth liners, and
they'll be the third worst team in the league. That's a big plus for them.
I still think they're going to finish 32nd, but anyway,
that's very possible. But as of now, they're not. And all right, so let's move. And speaking of as of now, they're not. Let's move to the Pacific Division, which I wrote about today.
Right.
And
this is consistent because as of right now, the Sabres are 500, and I think they're the worst team in the league, or second worst to Arizona. As of now, Pacific Division, go ahead.
The Pacific Division, when we talked, the other thing I got laughed out of the room about, and I'm not looking, and I have X Crystal Puck, which I peer into. X Crystal Puck, if you can see it here, it says X Crystal Puck. Sent to me by a Canadian user. This is when I peer into this, I can tell exactly what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So when I peered into that, and saw a big Mangione in there, I am completely Mangiapiani. Sorry, Mangiapiani.
Right.
When I saw him, not Anthony Mangione. No,
I didn't think Chuck Mangione played for Calgary. I thought
Anthony Mangione, not Anthony Mangione. Anyway, I said that I really felt like this division was going to be the better of the two divisions out west, and I thought that they were going to be better than everybody thought they are. And as of now, of course, they are. Now it's early again, but what we have to ask ourselves is kind of what Kevin wrote about today, which is: are any of these teams for real? Are we seeing? So no. Edmonton's 9-1. All right,
they're not for real. I'm sorry,
they're for real.
They're not for real.
They're 100% for real. They're a plus 17 goal differential.
Mike's wrong. They're for real.
Okay. Until they get a goalie, they are not for real. Right now, Draisaitl, McDavid, like I said in our group text, they're playing at Mach 2. They're unbelievable. That doesn't last. We've seen it year after year after year. They will slow down. As like I said to Russ, I think the West is playing like the NHL season normally is, where like October is wide open and offensive, and in the East it hasn't been like that as much. This is going to slow down, and especially like when they play Calgary and Daryl Sutter beats on McDavid and Draisaitl, that'll slow them down. Their defense is average and their goaltending is pathetic. So no, they're not for real. They're not a team.
Again, it's like the 4-4 lines. Their defense is
pathetic.
It's good.
I like Evan Bouchard.
Their defense is the best defense they've had, Mike.
Yeah, but I like Evan Bouchard. I love Darnell Nurse. He's really good. Duncan Keith is completely over the hill.
But he's done well though. I mean,
very good, and he's brought a lot of character to the defense, and he's also helped a lot of the younger defensemen.
So far, he's been pretty good for them. I can't deny that.
Yeah.
No,
their goaltending is not pathetic. Their goaltending is mediocre. There's a difference between mediocre and pathetic. Their goaltending is not pathetic. I mean, it's just not. They are winning at Koskinen.
Right, because they're scoring like crazy. They got 45. They're averaging 4.5. Okay, if they average 4.5 goals a game for the entire season, they'll win the Stanley Cup. Are they going to average 4.5 goals? Not a friggin' chance.
I just don't think Koskinen will be there at the end, but everything else.
The only team in the division that's given up less goals than them.
Their team goals against is 2.80. That's not.
It'll get better. They'll get a goalie. I'm not even worried about that.
Well, and Russ, when they do, if they get Marc-Andre Fleury, or if they get Khudobin, or they get a goalie that's out there, then I will reevaluate where the Oilers are. But right now, with their defense where it is, with their goal and with them scoring like in buckets, I'm sorry, that's not going to last. So I think they're not. I think Calgary is more for real than Edmonton is.
Calgary's definitely for real as well.
I don't.
You don't think Calgary's for real?
I don't think they're more for real than Edmonton.
But I think they're both for real. I think that they're.
I don't know if Calgary's for real. I don't know if they can keep this up all year. This is a style of play that beats on your body, and I don't know if they're going to be able to keep that up all
year. I'll give you that. That's a great point. I mean, and Sutter definitely is not easy to play for, and we've seen that we saw Kings teams wear down in the past, but when Anthony wrote in our group chat today that this team does remind him of some of those Kings teams, I do agree.
Sure.
And where what his teams do better than any other team in the NHL. And I saw this in the last couple games I've been watching, because I've been watching them really closely, because I want to see, before I state like something like the Pacific Division is, I really want to make sure that I can say it. And the thing about Calgary, besides the fact that Markstrom has 4 shutouts and is just playing out of his friggin' mind, and the fact that they have, scoring all over the place up front, and they're scoring like crazy, and they've got some stars, and I'm not even going to get into my guy who's getting 14 minutes a game, but still is in the top 50 scorers.
I mean, tough getting in the top 20 of that.
He's number 50 in the top right now.
14 minutes a game. So, but beyond that, what they do really well, what Sutter's teams did with the Kings are really well. And I know I sat next to you, Russ, in the press box in LA for 2 Stanley Cups, and we talked about this at the time. Their set plays to get out of their own end are phenomenal. Like they get out of their own zone. The Kings get out of their own zone so quickly. Their transition out of their own zone, and the way that they know where to be. Like there is no like, I got the puck, am I going to pass it? I'm going to do it. Like there's nobody like just floating through. They just know what to do. They have 4 or 5 things that they do, and they do it to perfection.
Now, okay,
I will say this. I think teams were surprised out of the gate when they were beating on them and beating them on the forecheck. I don't think that's going to happen all season. I don't.
Right.
Now,
no, okay, well, not like this. I don't think they're a 773 team. You
go to the second level here, and I was going to bring this up yesterday. Anaheim is 6-4-3 right now, and Russ, a guy that they were trying to trade in the offseason, has got points in 11 consecutive games. Troy Terry. I was like saying, wow, if anybody could get Troy Terry, at his low value. Well, I mean, okay, this is and John. They're 6-4-3 with as usual. John Gibson playing out of his mind. He was first or second star of the week. I think our third star because Draisaitl was first star. Okay, again,
we have a lot of goals though.
We know what's going to happen because it happens every year with Gibson. He either gets hurt or he gets worn down because he's facing too many shots. The Anaheim's in a rebuild. They got a lot of good young guys, Russ, but this isn't for real.
Well, I mean, look, Terry, there was no doubt that Terry would develop better than what he did last year. But even I was wondering, he had 7 goals last year in a shortened season. He's already beaten that. So is this just like a year that it clicks for him? I don't think he's going to be more than a 20-goal scorer in the NHL.
It's a contract year, though, so he's making
I don't think he'll be more than a 20-goal guy in the NHL anyhow. But this has clicked for him. Gibson is Gibson, and they do have a lot of young players. I still don't think it will hold out for them because I still don't think they have enough scoring down line. But we'll see.
And we had Sheng Peng on our off the post show on Sunday.
Great.
We were talking about San Jose 6-4-1. They're surprising.
I picked them the highest of anybody on this panel.
You're right.
I don't think their goaltending is good. James Reimer is their number 1 right now. That tells you their goaltending is not good. But the thing that we brought up and the thing that Sheng revealed to us is the plan with Evander Kane, whose suspension is up at the end of the month. They may pay him just to not be there. They may pay him to go away. They may tell him to go to the Barracudas in the AHL, and if he doesn't report, they may just pay him to put him on suspension and pay him to go away and maybe buy him out at the end of the year.
Can you send him without pay if he doesn't report?
Yeah. No.
Not without pay. No, they'll pay him.
They'll pay him.
I mean, at what point if a guy's refusing to do his job,
it doesn't matter.
First of all, he would have to clear waivers to go to the AHL, so they could ask him to go on a conditioning stint or something like that. But if he refuses to do that, then they would just suspend him. But I don't think they can suspend him without pay.
You think he clears waivers?
No. Well, yeah.
Well, no, yes, he'll clear waivers. Nobody's taking them.
Yeah, with 3 years left, it's $7 million for sure.
Nobody's touching that.
But right now, the Sharks are playing basically because Kane is not there, and I think a lot of people feel ebullient that okay, we're done with this jerk, so now we can get back to playing hockey. And Carlson has been Carlson, at least for the early part of the season, but their goaltending is not good. They got a lot of age on defense, and I don't know if they can score enough. So this is not for real for them either.
I think
it's more for real than Anaheim because I do trust the guys that San Jose has filled into key spots, free agents that they've signed from Russia, from college, from all these other places. So I do think they're more for real than Anaheim. I will say that.
Yes.
I think San Jose and Anaheim, even if they end up towards the like 2 of the 3 bottom teams or whatever. When you look at the 2 bottom teams in the Central being Chicago and Arizona, I take Anaheim and San Jose over that. Like it's like there's no question that they're. I mean, the best they could hope for would be like a 500 type season for either of these teams, which would be really something. And they, right now they're just a little bit over 500. Yeah. Anaheim's getting a little.
No, you're right about that.
Yeah, I mean, Anaheim's getting a little lucky. I mean, they have given up 37 goals, and although you're right in what you're saying about the goaltending, they've gotten key goaltending, especially key momentum goaltending at key saves at big times. They are giving up goals, but they're scoring them too. So it's like
So basically,
then let's go to LA, who we all.
I was just going to say this. Mm-hmm. Of the 4 top teams in the division, I think all of them are overachieving right now. I think LA is overachieving in the sense that with the injuries that they've had, they should probably be worse. But they're playing. I mean, last night, I have to. An underlying story here is look at Jonathan Quick's stats. He's only 500 record, but he's got a 226 goals against and a 924 save percentage, and he looked like vintage Jonathan Quick.
Until he gets hurt. But yes, he was great.
But they do have Peterson, and Peterson's a goalie.
Peterson's really good. If they get the chance, this is another possible Edmonton move. Like Jonathan Quick. It's like, and it's not like
for a short time it could be. Yeah.
It depends how healthy he is. It depends where LA is in the whole scheme of things. If LA is in the playoff run, that's not going to happen. But I mean, they're in the same division, but I think that there's, LA is definitely. I think they're for real just based on the fact that they're 6-5-1 with all the injuries they've had. I mean, the fact that they're able to do that is
Arvidsson's not healthy.
I know.
Doughty's out.
Drew Doughty was the best defenseman in the league when he went down.
Yeah, he was. It was, and Kopitar's having an unbelievable season. I mean,
he has had a resurgence. I agree with that.
Well, it's crazy.
We all criticized the signing of Danault, but basically what Danault has done, bringing in Danault has done is now he's the checking center, and now it frees up Kopitar to be offensive.
That's true.
And that 1-2 punch they played against Matthews and Tavares, who've been red hot, and Danault is like kryptonite against the Leafs as he was last year in the first round against Matthews, and Kopitar. Against Tavares, they shut the Leafs down. They played a really good road game and they won 5-1. So I think they're a decent team.
The thing about the Kings is, and this is where they could prove me wrong for this year because they are playing great without Doughty. They kept telling me from the inside that they're going to be pushing the pace. Well, they finally are pushing the pace, and they had a couple plays where they went around the Leafs, but also they outbattled the Leafs a lot, and so. Can they keep that up all year? I don't know because without Byfield in there, he would have been one of those guys battling. I don't know if they have the horses to do it. They have the work ethic and they have the speed now, but I still don't think they have all the pieces.
Now, we talked about Vegas yesterday.
One more thing about the Kings, then we'll move to Vegas. I just wanted to bring one more thing in. Last night, watching them against Toronto, when you get to see a chance, you get to see these interdivisional teams, like these teams that like this is, and you see that the Kings are 5th place in this division. And, they're struggling with injuries, and yet they still played with Toronto, who is like one of the best teams in the East. Well, this tells you that this division has something going on.
What it tells you is, like I just said, Kopitar and Danault matching up against Matthews and Tavares and shutting them down. And when you do that, you shut down the Leafs. It's that core group. That core group doesn't score. The Leafs are not going to win.
Yeah, I know. And the Leafs feel a little bit like Edmonton 2 years ago right now to me, like the way they're playing. But I think that they have that potential, but they are easily shut down. They don't have the depth that the Oilers have. So it's like when you look at the whole thing.
There is another factor. Their schedule has been ridiculously easy. Coyotes, Sharks, Golden Knights with 2. That's hard. Coyotes, Ducks, then Golden Knights again. Well, the Golden Knights haven't been good this season.
Without Stone and Pacioretty.
The Wild, the Predators, the Stars, then the Blues. A couple games with the Blues. They did lose to the Jets, the Canadians, the Sabres. It hasn't been the hardest of schedules to start.
Not the easiest though either. I mean, it's been
one of the easier ones, I think.
I mean, Anaheim's been good, like we said. So it's like you sit there and you say,
but
maybe they've been good because they're playing LA a lot too. Because LA, it's all to say. I mean, obviously we put that. That's tough to say.
We talked about Vegas yesterday, so probably don't have to waste too much time on it.
I think the only thing I want to say about them in making the case for this division is that's the team that everybody said was the best team in this division. That's the team that everybody said, not me, but everybody said,
But they're devastated by injuries.
And they are devastated by injuries, no question about it. They also traded for Jack Eichel, which makes them a better team when he comes back. What was that?
When will that be?
I don't know, but if they can make the playoffs.
Well, that's the key now. See, when the season started, we all guaranteed them in the playoffs. Now it's if they make the playoffs.
Right. And that's a big deal. So I think
that's a big deal. I agree.
They're gonna have to figure out some cap things if they get everybody back too. But if they do get everybody back, I mean, like I said earlier, Vegas last year is probably a Stanley Cup finalist if you put Eichel into that lineup. So it's like there's no two ways about that, right? I mean, that they beat Montreal with Eichel. I mean, where they fall apart against Montreal this year is they don't have a center to play against them. So, bam, you put Eichel in that lineup, they're a Stanley Cup finalist. Do they beat Tampa? Probably not, but they're still pretty darn good. And and then we go to Vancouver, who is, who was my surprise team, and I put them in first, they're in seventh. So I'll sit there and say how wrong I was about that right now, for sure. But I still, when you watch Vancouver play, Jack Hughes might be the best defense. Jack Hughes is outperforming Cale Makar right now.
He may be the best defenseman.
Might be the best defenseman in the NHL. Elias Pettersson you forget that he came back from so many different kinds of injuries because of the way everything's happened with the pandemic. He's never been able to get into a groove. And the thing about him that was so amazing is not just is he a great passer and not just is he smooth as silk, but he actually has a really hell of a shot. And that shot is finally coming back after all the injuries. You can see it, you can see that shot has returned to form. They've also faced a lot of injuries. They're on the verge of something big too. And Demko is now starting to get recognition as a possible goaltender for Team Canada.
I think Vancouver is better than they're playing right now. But like I said, I think the top four in this division are way overplaying what they are. And I think the only team in this division that is probably where they should be is Seattle.
Yeah, but the one thing about Vancouver, they're actually at a 0 differential. If they were actually scoring goals like they could, they would be much better because they're better defensively than we probably all thought they would be, and they're not scoring, which is you wouldn't think that would be a problem with them.
And I said, and you can see it that's starting to turn around the last couple games.
It could turn around for sure.
And Peterson, he'll get it. Elias Pettersson will get it. We'll get that together. They will get healthy. They will get guys back, and they will also be a force. So those are 7 teams right there that we talked about. And besides Seattle, who is definitely
they're not all going to be a force.
They're not all going to be a force, right? I think Anaheim and San Jose will fall back to earth. I really do. But I think that eventually happen. But I think that to sit back and say that this division is the weakest division in hockey is just not possible.
It probably isn't the weakest. I will agree.
Yeah,
I still believe it is the weakest.
What Mike doesn't want to believe is if the Bruins don't do well, and let's say Rask is just like mediocre after his hip surgery, the Atlantic doesn't look as good as it did on paper.
Well, I mean, Russ. Okay, Detroit is much better than I expected them to be. So I think the top 3 in the Atlantic are really good. I think Boston is still to be determined. Any team with that line is good. So, but whether they make the playoffs or both wild cards come from the Metro, we'll see. I think Detroit is much better. I think Ottawa is about as what we expected. There's talent there, but it's sort of diffused. Montreal is the thing that's really hurting the Atlantic right now because Montreal is a boat anchor train wreck, 18-wheeler going off the side of the cliff. But Carey Price is coming back, and that means they could be a 500 team or better.
I love how Mike has to trumpet Montreal now. This is great. Who saw this turnaround on the show? I didn't.
I'm not trumpeting that train wreck. I'm just saying that right now. I mean, you have to say that if Carey Price comes back and he's Carey Price, then they're at least a decent team.
Toronto has won 5 games in a row.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, right? But they are a -4 goal differential.
They
are a .577 win percentage. In the Metro,
they're -4 goal differential with their goaltender playing fantastic.
I know.
Yeah, he's overplayed. There's no question.
If you were to put that winning percentage of .577 into the Metro division, they're 8th place. Yeah. I mean, the reality is that they are not a good team right now. They're getting better. They've won a bunch of games.
They're not a great team. They're a good team.
They're a good team. Right. They're not a
They're
powerhouse.
not a great team.
Tampa is also not a powerhouse right now either. I mean, they're
not.
They're better. They're not compared to Tampa. The one team that is a powerhouse is Florida for sure. And I want to talk a little bit before we go about the ending of that game, Russ.
Yeah.
That was one of those crazy games I've watched in a long time. Florida, who hadn't lost in regulation, and just eventually, they're going to lose in regulation. And Shesterkin, despite basically outshooting the Rangers 3-1 in the game in a crazy ridiculousness. I mean, they got a couple really nice goals. They get up 4-0, and Shesterkin standing on his friggin' head because Florida's just. I mean, I really think sometimes.
I couldn't believe the shots on goal in that game, 45-18.
It was not. That's 3 times. So it's like, think about that. That's like 3 times the shots. And there were quality shots too. Like Shesterkin was making really, really good saves.
He was making some amazing saves
until like the last few minutes. And then Florida finds a way to score like 3 goals in like 2 minutes.
Well, I'll tell you part of the reason for that. Part of the reason is, yes, Florida, it is hard to hold them back for a whole game. Yeah. And the Rangers do have trouble locking down leads. They do.
Yeah.
And they haven't figured out the right combination of players for that yet.
It's really interesting that when they named 3 stars after the game, Shesterkin doesn't come out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that or not. But,
but it doesn't shock me. He probably wasn't happy. He didn't look happy after the 3rd goal. He was mad at himself. I could tell.
But honestly, the 3rd goal wasn't his fault either.
But he was mad. Still didn't matter.
I think he was mad. He was also exhausted. I mean, I think he was literally.
Yeah, he probably was exhausted.
I think he was literally collapsing into that locker room because he really because even with 30 seconds left, you had to. In my mind, I'm thinking Florida's going to tie this game. Like it felt like they were going to tie.
It felt like they could.
And they don't. But what's interesting to me about when you think about whether Florida is for real or not, you sometimes learn more about a team out of a loss than you do a win. And I felt like I kind of learned more out of Florida last night out of the loss.
I think there's something to be said. Florida is that good, and they're really not out of any game. I mean, if you think about like the Keandre Miller goal, that's just a great personal effort.
Yeah.
But Florida's hard to play against now. And what's funny? We don't know what'll happen until the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I can't fire Andrew Burnett. They're just as good with them.
I know. They are. They look the same. They look absolutely the same to me. And last night, when you're like 10-0-1, you're in New York. You played just a couple nights ago against Carolina in a game that was a big showdown. You're on the beginning of a road trip. They play in New Jersey tonight. It's like it would have been very easy last night to just lose that game 4-1 or.
I think the old Panthers would have.
Yeah, they would have. But the fact that team was willing to try to get back in that game, like the way they were. I mean, Duclair is a force. I mean,
And Barkov was a game time decision.
I know. And Huberdeau, the one goal Huberdeau got was phenomenal.
Huberdeau's definitely hit another level. There's no question about that.
Yes, he definitely, to me, is a Canadian.
And Ekblad being healthy is probably the most important thing on that team, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because when he's healthy, you have to account for him in a game. You're not going to challenge his side that much. You don't want to, it changes the way you game plan against them.
I do agree. And I think it was just one of those wow type games. And the other thing I wanted to mention about that game, because I watched it, on ESPN Plus or what have you. I liked Lundqvist in between periods. I thought.
Yeah, Lundqvist. You mean on MSG? Yeah.
Oh, MSG. Sorry, MSG. Yeah.
Yeah, Lundqvist is good. He and Valaket have a very good chemistry because one was backing up the other.
Yeah,
they were both good guys in the room. But what this shows you is, and the reason why he and Valaket are this good is because Lundqvist was always very supportive to the backup goaltenders he had. He wasn't one of those divas.
Right.
He wasn't one of those guys that wouldn't help them or answer questions. He was always a great teammate, and then that's where that comes from.
Did you hear them talking about the controversial goal and Lundqvist, basically Lundqvist saying, because there was a goal where that was called off.
Hear about that.
Okay, so there was a goal that was called off, right? I guess because on goal interference against Spencer Knight, and basically there was somebody in the crease, and and Valaket said, I don't know if that was goalie interference, and Lundqvist was like, that's 100% goalie interference. There's no question. He couldn't get across to it, and Lundqvist was mad at Spencer Knight for just kind of looking up and at the referee and saying, well, he's like, Lundqvist is like, I break my stick across the crossbar if that's not an interference.
And he would, yeah.
Like, I'll tell you that right now. And Valaket's like, yeah, I don't doubt that you would have. It was just really a cool interchange, between the two of them. And yeah, I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Yeah, no, they're good together. They are.
You see, I think that's going to be I think that's going to be a fun thing to watch.
And Valiquette, honestly, is one of the best in the business. He really, not only does he know goaltending, but he really can break down the game very well. I mean, I've had him on other shows, and I've been very impressed with him.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very cool. All right, what else? Do you have anything else, guys? Say, you guys good?
No, right, I think we covered it.
Cool. Fun show tonight. Some interesting games. The battle for the bottom of the Atlantic in Ottawa and Boston going against each other.
He's seriously pushing that now.
We'll see. But I mean, come on. Anyway,
it's over, Rick.
Seattle.
I'll tell you what the most interesting game is.
Yeah.
It'll be Carolina Tampa because we want to see. I want to see now if Carolina keeps it going.
Yeah.
I also don't think they've made a decision on Seth Jarvis yet.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I want to see what the decision. They should send him back. They have such a stacked team. There is no reason to keep that kid there, but we'll see.
Yeah. And we would have. And I also think, I don't know, if I look into this crystal ball, and after all I just said about the crystal puck, after all I just said about the Panthers, I think New Jersey's winning tonight. And I think that just because the third game in 4 nights, tough.
He's hurt, so
tough. Yeah, I don't know. Tough battle last night where Florida had to put out a lot of energy in that game. They put out a ton of energy in that game.
Well, if Dougie Hamilton plays tonight, you can make an argument. If he doesn't play, I still think Florida's going to win.
I'm going to go with my upset of the night will be New Jersey or Florida. We'll see
I don't think it's an upset if Hamilton plays because they'll have a boost.
Yeah, they will for sure.
Don't.
Yep, that's it. Remember, folks, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will be back tomorrow with more Buffalo love.